It was a crisp afternoon when HOA Karen, never one to let an opportunity pass, decided to try her hand at having me fined. This time, she seemed convinced that by filing complaints about minor, non-existent infractions, she could manipulate the system to her advantage. What she didn't anticipate, however, was that the plan would backfire spectacularly, turning her own arrogance into the very mechanism of her downfall. Karen arrived at our property armed with paperwork, an expression of righteous fury, and the confidence of someone who truly believed they could bend the rules to their will. She began issuing verbal warnings and threats, claiming that my property and actions violated various HOA codes and local ordinances. Her gestures were wild, her voice carried, and she aimed to create a spectacle that would intimidate everyone present. My wife, standing beside me, calmly reviewed each claim. "Karen," she said evenly, "your complaints are baseless. You have no grounds for enforcement, and any attempt to pursue fines against us will be challenged legally." Karen, unfazed by her words, tried to insist on the legitimacy of her accusations, waving her papers as if the mere act of producing them granted authority. The moment of poetic justice came swiftly. While she was focused on attempting to intimidate us, the HOA's latest compliance reports had just been issued, revealing multiple violations on Karen's own property. Violations that had gone unaddressed for months. Expired permits, unpermitted structures, and other minor infractions were all documented in official records. Without realizing it, Karen had handed us the perfect countermeasure. The system she sought to manipulate for her own gain now exposed her to enforcement. I calmly presented the documentation to the authorities and the HOA board, demonstrating that Karen's attempt to fine us was not only baseless but also hypocritical. Karen's face went pale as the tables turned. Her audacious plan to assert control had been fully undermined by her own lack of foresight. Attempts to argue or redirect attention only emphasized the glaring truth. She had been caught in her own web. Neighbors, many of whom had grown accustomed to these dramatic encounters, quietly observed and recorded the scene. Karen's insistence on authority clashed spectacularly with documented evidence of her violations, leaving her flustered, fumbling, and visibly humiliated. Her son, once a bystander, looked on silently, perhaps beginning to grasp the consistent pattern. No matter the scenario, his mother's audacity always resulted in public defeat. By the end of the confrontation, Karen's credibility had suffered yet another major blow. Not only had she failed to impose any fines on us, but she now faced scrutiny and potential penalties for her own infractions. The neighborhood whispered excitedly about the incident, adding yet another chapter to the legendary saga of HOA Karen's miscalculations. That evening, as our family reviewed the documents and footage, it became clear that preparation, calm reasoning, and evidence were once again the keys to prevailing. Karen's arrogance had collided with reality, producing another spectacular failure. The saga continued, but the lesson remained unchanged. Entitlement without foresight is a guaranteed recipe for humiliation and consequences.